Hey guys, it's Luke here and welcome back to another video. Now today is going to be quite an interesting video because, well, I've indirectly mentioned before that I have in fact sold my GT86. I think I've mentioned that more on Instagram than I have on YouTube, but yes, it's gone. It's sold about a month ago, funnily enough, very shortly after my last video with it went live. And so I'm kind of tentatively looking for a replacement project car, because the GT86 was a project car that was never a project car. But today we're checking out an Audi S3 with a manual gearbox. Now, a good friend of mine, Jack, who's the owner of this car, has very kindly invited me along today to come and take a first drive of the car. I've been in multiple S3s and Golf Rs, obviously, but never one with a manual. So that's going to be quite interesting to take a look. There's been a couple of things that have been done to it, but Jack has, to be honest, only had the car for a little while. So I'll give you a run through of what's been done before taking it out for a first drive to see if this could actually end up being a project car for the channel. Okay, so like I mentioned, before we head out for a first drive, let's kind of show you the car briefly. Fairly obviously, it's a pretty familiar setup for me. About 300 horsepower from a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo, although this car, like I mentioned, is fitted with the 6-speed manual. Over there, lovely jubbly. Now, one of the things you might already notice is actually the steering wheel has been updated to the facelift. This car is a pre-facelift, as you can see from the dials, but the facelifted wheel has been retrofitted by Jack, and it actually makes the interior look, well, so much more modern, as you'd expect, with those seats as well. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And of course with that third pedal, which I'm very, very excited to experience. Now, the 0 to 60 time is slightly slower with the manual at a time of just over 5 seconds. But with the semi-automatic DSG, it is slightly under the 5. I think it's probably about 0.4 seconds in it, but undoubtedly you're having a hell of a lot more fun in the manual. Jack has done quite a significant amount to the exhaust as well, so it sounds pretty awesome, as we will hear when we get out for a drive. But going back to the manual quickly, the clutch in the manuals tends to have some mixed opinions, so to save that obviously going bang, Jack has updated that with a stage 2 clutch. Other than that, it's pretty stock for the moment, but I do know that there are some more plans for the car, including new wheels. But I have to say, Daytona Grey does suit this car exceptionally well. And some of you guys may remember Jack's previous car, which is of course a mineral grey M140i. I think he likes grey. But yeah, could this be a replacement to the GT86, a proper project car for the channel? Of course, the GT86 plans didn't really amount to anything, unfortunately, but I'm definitely still got that itch to do a proper project car alongside the M140i. So this could be, I don't know, technically like a little test drive of what could potentially replace that. So I think what we'll do, we'll hop inside, fire it up, get some GoPros put in place, and see what this manual S3 has to offer. Out in the car now, and first impressions, the clutch is very brutal actually, but it's fun. There's something about manual shifting, you know, just does not get old. You get some lovely noises on the upshifts. And down. And down. Is pretty brutal, but just manual shifting. It properly screams, this thing. Oh yeah. Well, I'm pretty sold that I need a manual, that's for sure. I mean, just listen to these downshifts, okay? And on the upshifts. Mate, this sounds mega. I've experienced a lot of Audi S3s, Golf Rs, RS3s, that kind of thing, but you hardly ever see them in manual. I think I've filmed with 1 or 2 manual Golf Rs at least. Obviously the GTIs are slightly more common in the manual. I think that probably the manual suits the GTIs better, but on an S3, I mean, to be honest, you don't really see that many S3s anyway, let alone in manual. But if I were to ever opt for one of these, I definitely think manual is the option, and definitely with an exhaust as well, because it absolutely howls.
And the clutch.
Yeah, and the clutch, yeah, definitely. Oh, I've missed heel and towing, man. That's the one thing I love the GT86 for.
Yeah.
This is a bad junction.
I actually know how to heat and tow.
Yeah. Those gear shifts are so brutal. Now, to be honest, this is the kind of clutch, right, which if you're driving normally, it's like that, isn't it? It really comes alive when you're on it, and to be honest, any manual S3 owners out there will understand that upgrading your clutch is a must. I mean, they go on stock power over a short amount of time, generally. And obviously, if you want to map it and do other bits to it, upgrade the power and so on and so forth, then you're going to need that anyway. But yeah, no, it's so fun to drive. I think having paddles on this, it would be good. I mean, you'd have the straight line speed, you get to 60, probably about half a second quicker than what you would in this. But you have so much more fun doing so, and when you do it right, it's so much more rewarding, especially on a road like this. I mean, look at the views we've got ahead. Absolutely lovely. Those downshifts. You just find yourself making an obscene amount of noise all the time. So good. I mean, this is where a car like this comes into its own. Some country twisty roads. Oh dear. So yeah, like I mentioned, I'm kind of tentatively out there looking to replace the GT86. It's definitely a car which I loved owning. It was so fun to drive, and I don't regret buying it one bit. I've explained that briefly, actually in the last video of it on the channel. It filled a purpose, mainly for more of an everyday kind of car, really, if I'm being honest. And I know a couple of people said, well, surely it should be the other way around. The 140 is probably the more practical car out there than the GT86. But that's just kind of the way I looked at it and the way I went. It was great, although it definitely had its flaws. The flaws mainly being the engine, with what I wanted to do to it, stick a nice big turbo on it. It wouldn't have really been good. I probably would have blown an engine and all the turbo, to be honest. And it kind of just put me off. So I do miss it, to be fair, especially because I'm now putting a lot of miles on the 140, which, even though now it's mapped and it is a lot of fun, I'm enjoying, but the fuel costs are quite excruciating, to be fair. And so yeah, essentially I am looking to get a second car, one which I can have as a bit of a project, really, which is kind of what the GT86 was meant to be. Unfortunately didn't really mount up to be that. The 140 is great, but now that I've kind of scratched the surface of getting a second car, and having a different amount of fun with it, i.e. with a manual gearbox, kind of a little bit of a sports car kind of feel, that may not necessarily equate to what this new car would be, i.e. potentially one of these, because I'm absolutely loving driving this, not gonna lie, especially with the manual as well. Yeah, so I kind of thought I'd come out here and experience a few different cars which I haven't properly experienced before, i.e. a manual S3. The standard DSG S3 is one which I'm very familiar with, the engine I'm very familiar with and everything like that. It's just the gearbox, and I'm really getting along well with it. Especially with this clutch though, it does take some getting used to. But when you do it right, when you get that heel and toe perfect, it's very, very satisfying. And it makes a great noise too. I mean, listen to this. You get really high pitch towards the top of the rev range as well. This thing revs up to probably about 6,500.
Screams.
It screams, it does. Oh, that was a good one. Even you're loving it.
Yeah. I don't always pay attention to it, but since I'm not paying attention on the road,
Yeah.
I'm driving it, all I'm doing is listening out for it.
Oh, it's so raspy towards probably about 4,000 at least. And then from there all the way up to 6.5, it's just...
As soon as it comes on boost, it's in ASBO mode.
Yeah. And the thing with it is you don't have to be going crazy speeds to make those noises and to have a lot of fun.
I annoy my neighbours at 10 mile an hour.
That's a skill, that is. Sixth to third is the most satisfying thing. Oh dear, what do you guys think? Should a 2-litre 4-cylinder come back to the channel? One with a lot of tuning abilities, obviously being a turbo from standard, because we all know what lacked a turbo, don't we? Yeah, this is a lot of fun. It's really opened my eyes. Or should I just go for another Golf R? Deary me, what have I done?
Should have never sold the Golf R. Should have never sold the Golf R. Hi guys, I bought another Golf R.
I expected a lot better from you, my friend. In the corners, it just comes alive. I can't get over those downshifts.
Going into third is something else.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm using all of your fuel.
I'll send you the invoice.
Yeah, please do. Oh dear. Well, that was interesting. Going into this video, I didn't really know what to expect, really. Well, I kind of did, in the sense that I know the platform, I know the car, but I didn't know the gearbox. And that is what has surprised me about how fun it is, how rewarding it is, but how brutal it is if you're just cruising. But yeah, this is interesting. I've got a few other cars in mind which I do need to test drive. I'm not saying that I'm going to buy one of these right now. To be honest, it probably would be a bit of a stretch price-wise anyway, especially with all the stuff which I'm doing to the 140 at the moment as well. But yeah, a lot of fun. And Jack, the owner who sat beside me at the moment, a massive shout out goes to him. His Instagram will be linked down in the description. Actually, I might be able to show you how brutal the gearbox, or the clutches, sorry, from a standstill when just cruising. Oh, it wasn't too bad actually. You can be really juddery. But anyway, that's going to wrap things up for today's video. Again, massive shout out to Jack, the owner, for letting me have a spin in his car. Massively appreciated. But yeah, that's going to wrap things up for today's video. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, please do make sure you leave a like and make sure you subscribe for all the adventures still to come. The classic.
I was literally, I love it.